All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Lizzie Nguyen. Welcome to the first Chesapeake Women in STEM Scholarship Q&A here today. Slide, please. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Elizabeth Nguyen. I also go by Lizzie, and I had the honor to serve as the 2021-22 and 2022-23 First Chesapeake Alumni Ambassador. I'm the proud alumna of the FCHS Jaguars, Falls Church High School, FRC 6504, and FTC 15310 teams, and I served as the social media manager and head of communications for the teams. Slide, please. So just a little bit about me. I'm a current senior at JMU studying kinesiology on a pre-med track. And like I said, I'm an alumna of Falls Church High School. And I'm on my second year as a First Chesapeake Alumni Ambassador. In my spare time, I love to read, make Spotify playlists, listen to the Huberman Lab podcast, play the New York Times mini crossword, and play fantasy football. So if any of that interests you, please feel free to connect. Slide, please. All right, so about our scholarship, the Reaching for the Stars Women in STEM Scholarship, sponsored by Dominion Energy, are awarded annually to at least 3 outstanding women, high school juniors and seniors, currently registered with a first team in the First Chesapeake District. So that includes DC, Virginia, and Maryland in both FTC and FRC programs. So the scholarships, along with the Reaching for the Stars Outstanding Women in STEM Award, are presented at the annual Women in STEM breakfast sponsored by Leidos. And additionally, the robot demonstrations at the breakfast event are sponsored by Canon, Virginia. So this cycle, 8 semifinalists were chosen from over 50 applicants for the 2022-2023 application cycle, and scholarships were awarded to 4 amazing winners from First Chesapeake teams. This year's breakfast event will be hosted at the Leidos headquarters in Reston, Virginia, next year on February 6, 2024. Slide, please. All right, so the application timeline, you can see here, our application will open on Wednesday, the 1st of November, and will close about 4 weeks later on the 29th. And you can expect to receive interview invitations around December the 8th, and then sometime in December at a later date, there will be an interview panel. And then semifinalists will be announced next January on the 10th. And then the Women in STEM breakfast and winners will be announced, like I've said, on the Tuesday, the 6th of February, 2024. First Chesapeake proudly boasts a 40% female participation rate among team members, volunteers, and team mentors. In order to foster an ever-increasing female participation and recognition for its female team members, First Chesapeake partnered with Dominion Energy this year to sponsor the scholarships awarded to 4 outstanding young women associated with our First Chesapeake teams. And among the 2022-2023 finalists are Olivia Sun and Morgan McMillan. So I'll just do a little introduction for each of their causes and from their bios. Olivia hopes to combine her passion for the humanities and policymaking with her STEM experiences to promote women in STEM in an interdisciplinary way. Morgan is an advocate for diversity in STEM fields and FIRST programs, and she hopes to combine her love of STEM with service to her country. Next, we have Natalie Warren and Suzu Podell. So Natalie uses her STEM skills to educate and advocate for students with disabilities to be involved in FIRST programming and hopes to be an educator in the future. Suzu hopes to break down barriers for girls in STEM. She hopes that she can one day use her STEM skills to design a robotic pen that can assist those with Parkinson's to continue to communicate with writing. Some additional initiatives besides the one that we've mentioned already include Reaching for the Stars Award, today's Women in STEM chats, and the We3 Women in STEM Lunch and Learn events. The 2023 Reaching for the Stars Award was presented to Dr. Julie Rosen, a retired Leidos chief scientist and mathematician. Dr. Rosen has contributed to many initiatives and most recently led the technical approach for proving the benefit of an academic collaborator's machine learning model to forecast suicide risk among military members and veterans. She has also advised corporate technical leadership on basic and applied research, into intelligence automation and AI ML modeling and methods. 18 outstanding women in STEM were interviewed across 6 sessions in the Today's Women in STEM series sponsored by Leidos. Female professionals from Canton, Virginia, Leidos, Newport News Shipbuilding, Accenture Federal, Dominion, and Qualcomm discuss what inspired them to pursue their own STEM careers, the challenges they face in their jobs, and the impact that STEM education has made in their lives, and how they're currently looking to pay it forward. On June 6, 2023, at the We Three Women in STEM Lunch and Learn, sponsored by Dominion Energy, young women were connected with women of all ages who have traversed the STEM industry at all levels. This was a chance for them to network and build relationships as well as learn from those who have gone before them. All right, so now I have the distinct honor of presenting our 2 scholarship winners and our panelists today. So first, I'd like to introduce Jessica Alja. So I'm just going to read a little bit about her. So Jess was our first Women in STEM inaugural scholarship recipient. So she is as OG as it comes. And she was also a 2020 First Chesapeake Alumni Ambassador and the alumna of FRC Team 5243 and FTC 10414, for which she had the opportunity to serve as their Chief Financial Officer and their Chief Executive Officer. So welcome, Jess. Slide, please. And then you can just read a little bit more about her, but I'll just also read some of the highlights. So she is currently working in Alpine Consulting as an analyst, and their client is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And she is an alumna of Virginia Tech, so pains me to say this is a JMU Duke right now, but go Hokies. And she graduated last May, graduated summa cum laude last May in Industrial Systems and Engineering with a minor in Innovation Integrated Security. And she's also pains me to say, says a Falls Church High School alumna, but also graduated from Centerville High School in 2019. And also distinct honor to connect with her also as a fellow alumni ambassador. And in her spare time, she also likes New York Times games, traveling, running, and Virginia Tech and DC sports. So welcome, Jess, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And our next panelist here today is Miss Morgan McMillan. She is most recently the 2023 Women in STEM Scholarship recipient, and she is the alumna of FTC Team 1885. And in her time with the team, she had the opportunity to serve as the Build Sub-Team Lead and overall team lead last year. She is currently attending the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, class of 2027, majoring in mechanical engineering, and is also an alumna of Battlefield High School. And in her spare time, she loves to read, play basketball, obviously robotics, and listen to music. Welcome, and thanks for being here today, Morgan.
Thank you.
All right. So now is the time for our question and answers. So please submit any and all questions that you have for Jess and Morgan in the chat box, and we'll go through and take questions as they come in. But just to get us kickstarted, I'm just going to be asking Jess and Morgan some questions. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll pick them up as we go. All right, ladies. What or who inspired you to apply for this scholarship, and how did you guys initially hear about it?
My FTC coach and mentor actually informed me of the scholarship. He's definitely the reason that I continued robotics through high school because COVID kind of made it a bit harder. So definitely owe that to him.
Kind of similar. First Chesapeake did a lot of advertising. The first year it came out, and then had a lot of support from my mentors on my FRC team, and then also a lot of close friends on the team. So we all chose to apply together. So yeah.
That's wonderful. So what is the most important lesson that you've personally learned or you've personally experienced across your different involvements within the FIRST community, whether that is with your own teams or as a scholarship recipient or as an alumna?
I would say don't be afraid to go the extra mile or kind of like go along the unmarked path. For when I was overall team lead for my team, I kind of forced our team to have an off season to prep for the real season by doing like a mock competition. And no one's done that before on our team. And it definitely helped because it was like the first time in 8 years we qualified for districts.
I think it's to make sure that you take a chance on yourself, sign up, like apply for leadership positions on your teams, put yourself out there. Regardless of whether or not you think you're qualified, you're going to be capable of far more than you think you are. And First Chesapeake and all the teams within, they have really good support systems with your mentors. No one's going to let you fail. So take a chance on yourself, sign up for as much as you can, sign up for extra responsibility. It's going to set you up really, really well in the long term, for sure.
Absolutely. And like this kind of comes along the same vein too, Jess. So I'm going to start with you, but what advice do you wish that you knew or you would like to give your younger self if you could have a conversation with her now? Or even a prospective applicant to the scholarship, whether that is any of their involvements with First, your guys' experiences in high school or college, or just life advice in general. What do you wish you knew when you were in the applicant's shoes?
It's definitely a good question. I feel like a lot of people in your life are going to say no to you, and you shouldn't be the person saying no to yourself. So there's a stat out there that talks about this, but like job applications, for example, like men try to like apply to like jobs where maybe they fit 40 to 50% of qualifications, and women try to apply if they meet 80 to 90%. And so we're always trying to look for like, we want to max out our responsibilities and our qualifications, but don't say no to yourself before other people have the chance to, right? So put yourself out there, whether that's applying to like a crazy college or applying to the scholarship, applying to leadership on your team, applying to internships, whatever it looks like. Just dive into the deep end. Like the worst thing that you can hear is no. And so what? If you get rejected, it's going to open a door somewhere else. So
that is such an important mentality to have, and honestly, that will carry you so far. And I'm sure Justin Moore, you guys can probably attest to this too. But um, having that mentality of never saying no to yourself, and also just shooting your shot, right? You miss all the shots that you don't take. Morgan, do you have anything else to add to that?
Kind of similar to what you were saying, is going to say, like, don't be afraid to speak your passion or make your passion known. If you truly enjoy it, go for it despite the odds or despite what people are telling you.
All right. So our next question, how do you feel supported as a first participant or in your scholarship application over the years, whether that is directly through the organization, through your home teams? And I know, Morgan, you've definitely talked about your club mentor and how they've supported you. So is there any particular person or support system that you guys have gained through your participation as a first participant or as a scholarship applicant?
Well, I personally still keep, and I did just graduate, but I still keep in contact with my team. The people that are still in high school working on this year's competition, they're texting in the old group chat, talking about the challenge. Like, you guys better come visit us over winter break to see how we're doing. So that alone is definitely like a comforting feeling. Like, I spent so much time with these people, and it's good to know I can still rely on them and talk to them when I want.
yeah, definitely. I graduated back in 2019, and all the seniors on my team, we've still stayed in touch. They're some of my closest friends in the world. We've gone to each other's college graduations. We're planning a trip to Mexico next year. So, I mean, you'll meet like lifelong friends in robotics, and I owe First Chesapeake for that. And I mean, just have to, it's hard in college, I know, but definitely owe that. And then a lot of mentorship that I received while I was in FRC, and connections I've continued since. And then also now, having been in the alumni ambassador program and getting connected post grad with First Chesapeake has also been an awesome part of support. And so getting the chance to come back and volunteer for competitions, looking into like mentoring teams, it's awesome. And getting to see the side of First when you're not a student. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely attest to that too, Jess, being a senior in high school or a senior in college right now. It's been quite a bit since we were in high school, and obviously COVID has changed the landscape so much. I'm sure you can attest to that too, Morgan. But yeah, I definitely feel personally for me, as someone who's been a little bit farther removed from First and from high school and the clubs and stuff, that it's so important to have these relationships and to maintain these friendships all throughout, because you never know if you might need to connect and network with somebody later, that you have these connections already formed to maintain them as well. And I'm still friends with a lot of my friends from when we were doing robotics in high school too. It's been a while since we've last seen them. Some of them are Hokies too, Jess. But it's definitely really important for us to maintain these relationships. And personally for me, I've had a lot of support from my friends and my mentors as well, and also being able to give back as a first alumni ambassador. I'm sure if you can speak to this too, Jess, but getting to maintain those relationships through our capacity as an ambassador. Is there something that you did differently as an ambassador versus when you were a student, given that opportunity to give back to your team or to give back to First, that you didn't have when you were just still a student competing?
Do you mind repeating it? I don't think I caught the last part of your question there.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Thanks.
So, is there anything that you did differently as a First Alumni Ambassador versus your time as a student that you didn't have the opportunity to do when you were still just competing as a student?
That's a good question. I feel like you might be able to speak to it better than I can. Like I mentioned, I was an alumni ambassador in 2020, so COVID had impacts for everybody, and the program was an example of that. Definitely hoping to come back and do the alumni ambassador program again, but I don't know if I quite have a good answer for you yet.
No, that's absolutely so fair. Um, in the same vein of that, actually, the next question would be, do you guys have any changes that you would like to see happen or encourage more women to join First specifically or join the STEM field in general? I know you guys are both in very STEM heavy fields that you were, Jess, and Morgan, you're in right now in college. But do you have any changes that you would like to see that would encourage more women and girls participate in STEM or just in First in general? I'll start with you first, Morgan.
I would say trying to work more towards actively involving high school, middle schoolers with community service that involves outreaching to people and informing them of the STEM community, young women especially. Get them informed of the different careers you can get in STEM. Most of them may not even be aware of the clubs you can join, or they might go to an event and be like, hey, this is really cool. I want to try it. So I think that would definitely help get more people involved and find out who enjoys it and find a new passion.
Yeah, definitely huge. And I think also when it comes to stuff like community outreach and specifically trying to get girls in STEM, like there's a big circle there of like, you know, first you're looking for mentors and you're trying to see women like 5-10 years down the road from where you're at, and they're an inspiration for you. And there's kind of a responsibility to come back and do that for people after you. And so, you know, I'm imagining it's, I think, high school juniors and seniors who are watching now for the scholarship. Take a note to come back either in college or post grad. You're going to be such an inspiration to people who are in high school. You know, it's a girl trying to decide if she wants to pursue a STEM degree, and seeing you as an example is going to be life-changing because they may not have that at home. They may not have that in their communities. So just making sure that, you know, you're following that circle of mentorship and service back is huge. Yeah, so I'll add that.
Just along those same lines, what if somebody is interested in joining like a First team or applying for the scholarship, but they don't really know how to get started? I know that's definitely something that a lot of female students at my school kind of encountered when they first wanted to get involved in First, but sometimes they see a lot more guys in the club or they don't know where they really fit in. Do you guys have any advice for people who kind of want to get started but don't really know how to get their feet wet?
I would say if you can, try to find a coach and talk to him or her about your interest in STEM and the robotics club or whatever kind of club it is, and then what aspect you might like. For me, I was always a builder, so I was like, I'm interested in robotics. I like to build. Is there a place for me on the team? What would I need to do? What does this involve? I feel like would be a good first step.
Yeah, definitely to echo that. And then also if they're women mentors that are part of those teams, having conversations with them. I know a lot of the women mentors on my FRC team became mentors of like personal mentors of mine while I was in high school. And they were a really good point of contact for a good kind of level set if I felt like, you know, I was lagging behind a little or things I wanted to learn about, they were a huge advocate for me. So building that relationship's awesome. And then also whatever student leadership looks like on those respective teams, reaching out to the female leaders there. I know a lot of us on the team, like when we were part of FRC 5243, we really wanted to increase the percentage of women that were on our team. And so that was a really big student-led effort that a lot of the women participated in. So there's a lot of opportunity there, trying to find camaraderie and people who kind of relate. It's going to help you feel less alone, because I'm sure it can get overwhelming at times, especially if you don't have that system to start off with. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. And I feel like reaching out to those mentors and honestly going back to our conversation earlier about being able to kind of develop such relationships in high school and kind of carrying them through college is so important. And this kind of ties into my next question too is a lot of times in high school, especially when we're going into college and finding our first jobs and our first internships, is that a lot of soft skills are um, kind of emphasize as well alongside those hard skills that we kind of build through our time working with robotics or with FIRST. What is one soft skill that you think is super important as you guys have really STEM adjacent majors? I'm a kinesiology major, so it's kind of a little farther removed, but it's still STEM nonetheless. That you think that you kind of develop through high school or through FIRST that you think that potential scholarship applicants or participants should kind of work on as they navigate the transition from high school to college?
I think a really big one is communication. I know like FIRST is a really good example of building communication skills, because for example, like you're in the pits and you're giving interviews and you're talking to judges and you have to explain this whole system of what you and your team have been working on in like a 5 to 10 minute conversation, and communicating really high level technical stuff. And so I know for me, like that was a big skill that I learned in FIRST and something that I worked a lot on. And it was something I talked about. I mean, I talked about my first experiences throughout freshman and sophomore year interviews when I was applying for internships. It was such a relevant experience. And yes, they asked about technical stuff, but like you were talking about, Lizzie, the soft skills, like communication part of it, being able to create like technical documentation, talking about leadership and like strategic planning was a big thing. I remember like any experience you've had in FIRST, you can tie into an interview. You can tie into a resume. I promise you. I had one interview where I was explaining like scouting to an interviewer and how we did that and how that helped us at competitions. So any part of whatever team you're on, whatever sub teams you're on, whatever you've participated in, there's something to talk to about that. And then I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but as you wrap up your time in FIRST as a student, sign up for any responsibility you can take, right? So sign up for the pit interviews, sign up for scouting, sign up for whatever it looks like on your team that you haven't done yet, because it's going to help you have a really well-rounded experience. Because I look back and there's a bunch of things that I wish I'd signed up for that I just didn't get the chance. So definitely take advantage of it for sure.
Me myself haven't had too many interviews yet, just getting started around here, but teamwork skills definitely important. You need to prove that you can work with others, because chances are you will be. And gracious professionalism, I know you've probably been hearing that for years and it's been shoved down your throat, but it really does help, especially in college. You're always competing with people in a way, competing against yourself, trying to be better, go for the drive. But you have to remember that you're not preying on other people's downfall. You might be struggling, someone else might be struggling. You guys can work together, you guys can help each other out. Or if you're struggling, you can rely on someone who understands to be able to help you out and not just ignore you because they don't want you to do well. So go hard, go for the drive. Definitely try your best, but always be willing to help other people out.
That is such an important point to make too, Morgan. As women in STEM, it can definitely kind of feel alienating sometimes if we're in a very male-dominated field or club or activity, that we're not only here to just build each other up, but also to create a community where other women in STEM can feel like they are supported as well. And I think that this is such an amazing opportunity for scholarship applicants and former winners to kind of connect with each other. But just to wrap things up, one final question for TL. This is kind of a brain twister, so don't feel like you need to answer right off the bat. But I just wanted to know, who is a woman in your life that inspires you? And it doesn't have to be a woman in STEM or somebody you've met through FIRST. But what kind of qualities do you hope to kind of embody in her? And what qualities do you most admire about her, and why?
I think for me, it was my grandma growing up and still is. She was the first like female superintendent of the school district that she worked for. And we tell a lot of interesting stories about the time she was working and kind of hardships. And she's been I think those conversations have been helpful for me of like, hey, like things have been worse and women have gotten through harder times and challenges have evolved. But she's been a good point and has always given like good sound advice, and someone that encouraged me specifically a lot to pursue engineering and pursue STEM. So she was a really good person to have. Yeah.
For me, it was my mom. She majored in computer engineering, and around the time where having a Black woman do any kind of STEM engineering was kind of eyebrow raised. And she was telling me about her stories of kind of the trouble she went through then. But she's done so much. She's definitely gotten so far and has always supported me and my sister, both like academically and then just giving us advice. And definitely one of the reasons I'm in the STEM field now.
That's so wonderful, Morgan. And personally for me too, my mom works in IT, and she actually came from Vietnam later in her 20s. And so she had already had an entire college degree in her own country, and coming here, kind of having to navigate not only a language barrier, but also a cultural barrier coming to the States. And I'm sure Morgan and Jess, you can probably attest to this too, as women of color. It definitely is a barrier for us to not only kind of overcome the societal barriers, but also our cultural barriers too, as women in STEM. But thank you guys so much for joining me here today. I learned so much about you both, and I just wanted to congratulate you again for receiving such a wonderful scholarship, but also for sharing your valuable insight with us here today. I'm sure that all of our potential applicants who are watching today are inspired by you, and also taking your advice and just shooting your shot and applying to the scholarship as well. I'm sure they've learned so much, as have I. And I would also like to thank you all for coming today, and for participating and listening to our conversation here today. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you all that the application opens on November 1st and closes the 29th. And be on the lookout for any information. First, we'll post it on our socials, email, and in Slack as well. And if you have any further questions about the scholarship, please reach out to Miss Shelley Stoddard. Her email is sstoddard@firstchesapeake.org. But thank you so much for joining us here today, and we will catch you in our next talk. Thank you all.